So Royan is a final year PhD student at the University of Leicester. His research focuses on Jupiter's upper atmosphere through infrared spectroscopy of H2 plus and H2 using ground-based telescopes. He has been the principal investigator and awarded multiple nights of observing time by the NASA Infrared Telescope Facility. He's active in outreach and has been a STEM ambassador for 4 years. So the title of Ruoyan's seminar is Probing the Jovian Ionosphere and Thermosphere via K-band spectroscopy. Okay, Ruoyan, if you want to share your screen and then you can get started.
Can people see it?
Yeah, we can see it and we can
Okay.
hear you. So I'll let you know at any point if we can't see it or we've stopped
Okay.
hearing you. Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks, Rosie, for the introduction. It's good to be here today. In the next 20 minutes, I'm going to show you some of the work I've done in the past 4 years. And focuses on studying Jupiter's upper atmosphere through the near-infrared spectroscopy. So the first thing you may ask is, what do you mean by the upper atmosphere, and why do you care about it? Well, for Jupiter, the upper atmosphere consists of an ionosphere that is embedded in a neutral thermosphere. And the composition is relatively simple. It's about 90% of hydrogen and 10% of helium, and a few minor other elements. The boundary between the upper and lower atmosphere, or in other words, the stratosphere thermosphere boundary for Jupiter is about 360 kilometers above the 1 bar pressure level. Jupiter is a gas giant, so it doesn't really have a solid surface. So we treat the 1 bar pressure level as its surface. Jupiter's thermosphere is dominated by the molecular hydrogen H2, and its ionosphere is dominated by the protonated counterpart H3+. As to why we care about Jupiter's upper atmosphere, well, it serves as a bridge between the planet itself and the interplanetary space. It heavily interacts with the surrounding magnetosphere. Brilliant. The interaction between the magnetosphere, the ionosphere, and thermosphere is known as the MIT coupling. So below on the left-hand side, here's an illustration of the geomagnetic spheric processes. And most, as you can see, some neutral winds, ions, these sort of cover most the MIT coupling processes. Nearly all of these, this is only for Earth, nearly all of these can be found on Jupiter as well. And how do we study them? A good way to do it is by studying the auroral processes. On the right-hand side, I really like this picture. It's an artistic design of Jupiter's aurora. It involves pretty much everything, many different aspects of the MIT coupling. Jupiter's aurora can be studied in many different wavelengths, and I do it in the infrared. More specifically through a charged particle called H3+. Full name is trihydrogen cation, but no one really calls it in that way, just H3+ is fine. Below is a formula showing you how H3+ is produced. It begins with the neutral molecular hydrogen H2 ionized by the solar UV radiation or the particle precipitation to produce H2+, and H2+ can react with H2 to produce H3+. The first ever detection of H3+ in any planetary atmosphere was back in 1989, actually at Jupiter by Drosser et al. So the advantage of studying H3+ and H2 is that both molecules can be observed remotely using either ground-based or space-based telescopes. So let's get to my work. Everything begins with an observation. The observation from my study was conducted back in 2017 on June the 2nd using the NIRSPEC instrument on the Keck-2 telescope. Below is a picture of the Keck telescope that I took personally. I really like that picture. On the right-hand side, I'm showing you how exactly the observation is conducted. Oh, whoops. Right. So as you can see, we have a east-west pointing slit that is perpendicular to the rotational axis of Jupiter, scanning from the pole towards the equator. And we're targeting the K band, which is around the 2 micrometer in that wavelength range. And once the observation is done, we obtain a spectra. Here's an example of the raw spectrum that we have. You can see it contains different spectral orders. 4 of them are labeled because I use them. There are several different H2 emission lines. These longer ones, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a number of H3 plus overtone emission lines, which are the shorter ones. Among of them, there are some hot overtone lines, but not labeling. They're not labeled. So this is the raw spectra. It has some spatial and spectral distortions and cosmic rays. So we need to, before performing any scientific analysis, we need to reduce the data. I'm going to skip that process, but once the data is processed, we have a nice and cleaned, reduced spectrum that with the noise properly cleaned and the emission lines are clear. Below is a horizontal cut. You can see that the lines are pretty clear relative to the background. So that's good. Now we can use these emission lines to derive some physical quantities. The way we do it is by fitting a Gaussian profile. Below here in panel A is just a crop of one of the H3 plus emission lines from the spectrum I've shown in the previous slide. And right-hand side is a horizontal cut. We have a clear, nice Gaussian distribution. By fitting that, we can get 3 parameters: the peak intensity A0, the line position A1, and the full-width half max, which corresponds to the line width. These together allow us to derive some important physical quantities, including the emission intensity, the temperature, the column density, and the line offset Doppler shift velocity. With these, we can study the dynamics, the heatings, the energetics, and abundance of Jupiter's upper atmosphere. So let's see some of the results. First thing I want to show is the emission intensity, because we scanned from the pole towards the equator, so we obtain a scanning map of the derived H3 plus and H2 intensities. Top is the H3 plus, bottom is H2. The horizontal axis, or the east-west spatial axis, corresponds to the longitudes, and the north-south spatial axis corresponds to the latitude. Morphologically, we can see that H3 plus mostly concentrates in the aurora region, where the intensities are high. We can see that the aurora contour, the 2 aurora peaks are very well contoured. As for the H2, it's more uniformly distributed within the whole upper atmosphere. The abundance is pretty much everywhere, and in fact, we can sort of see the limb of Jupiter through the H2 distribution. So that's the emission intensity. Now we have the velocity. This is the most interesting part. We have the plotting format is the same. We have the scanning map of the line of offset H3 plus and H2 velocities in the observer reference frame. It means observer means relevant to the telescope. And the blue color here means it's coming towards us, so blue shift. Red means moving away from us, and red shift. Because of the complexity of the MIT coupling processes, no single reference frame can be used when studying Jupiter's aurora. So we have to change different reference frames depending on what we want to look at. So in addition to the observer reference frame, we also have the planetary reference frame. In this case, the planetary means it's relative to the rotational rate of Jupiter. And by looking at the scanning maps, we see a general trend of red shift and blue shifts on both sides of the planet, but it's sort of difficult to see the small scale variations. To see that, we make two horizontal cuts through the aurora regions. The position where we make the cuts is labeled by the horizontal dashed black line. So let's see some details. Here is a velocity cut for H-ray plus. The black curve is the for the observer reference frame. The blue is for the planetary reference frame. And before talking about any science, when studying H-ray plus, when studying velocities, you very commonly see a term called co-rotation. It means that moving at the same rate as the rotation of the planet. So super co-rotation means it's faster than the planet, or a sub co-rotation means it's slower relative to the rotation of the planet. So let's see the velocity. On the dawn side, it's clearly we have a super co-rotation inside the mean aurora peak. Outside across the polar region, it's sub-co-rotating and then returning to the co-rotating with the planet near the center, and then another sub-co-rotation on the dusk side. This is very interesting. But this is not the first time we are able to see this. So previously, the study by Johnson et al. 2017, conducted by Rosie here. So she also spotted something similar. So here's the case comparison with my study and hers. And if you just look at how similar the velocity structures are between the two studies, again, super co-rotation on the dome side inside the main auroral peak, then sub-co-rotation across the polar region, returning to co-rotation near the center of the planet, and then another sub-co-rotation on the dusk side. But the results are so similar, but these are from exactly two different observations with two different, we're talking about different instruments at different times, separated by different, by almost 5 years, looking at different wavelength, so different band for different H-ray plus emissions. This is very interesting. So either we're spotting something very unique to H-ray plus itself, or in turn, something unique in the ionosphere, Jupiter's ionospheric dynamics. It seems like this is a persistent phenomenon that lasts for at least 5 years. And so we don't know anything about this. We have many different gases, but we're not very solid to any of the conclusion we draw from here. Definitely, we're calling for more direct observations of H-ray plus here for a better comparison. As for the H2 velocities, now the planetary reference frame is labeled as red for differentiation. You can see that for the neutrals, they are sub-co-rotating inside the mean auroral emission on both sides of the planet. Across the polar region in the middle, you sort of see an almost like linear trend in the polar region. Like if you just fit a line, it's like almost flat. Or this is even more obvious if you look at the black curve, the observer reference frame. It's mostly like a flat trend in the polar region. We don't know why this is, but one thing we can be certain is that This is the first time we're able to resolve a polar vortex from the thermospheric dynamics. And well, this is very important actually, because in many studies in the past have been assuming that the neutral thermosphere is either co-rotating with the interior of the planet or sub-co-rotating with the ionosphere. So moving as a fraction of the relative to the ions. Clearly, with the observational results, we see that this is not the case. So for future studies, especially involving, for modeling studies involving neutral velocities, this is something to think about. I could stop here, but I'd like to move a step further since I've got some time left. Back in 2018, by Kita et al., they measured the vertical profile of Jupiter's upper atmosphere, and they found that the H3 plus overtone and H2 emissions actually peak at the same altitude at around 800 kilometers above the 1 bar pressure level. And their results suggest the viability of direct measurement of the ion and neutral interactions. We're talking about subtracting, well, the neutral velocities from the ions. And in this case, we get the ion wind velocities in the reference frame of the neutrals. And we call this the effective ion drifts, which are shown on the right-hand side. It's just simply looking at the color, it's very clear that we have blue shifts on both sides of the planet. And this is even more obvious with a cross-sectional cut, that the two velocity peaks actually coincide with the two auroral peaks. And this asymmetric structure is very surprising because it's not axisymmetric. The reason I'm emphasizing this is because regarding the generation of Jupiter's mean aurora in the past few decades, the dominant theory, or the widely accepted theory, has been known as the breakdown in co-rotation theory. And one of the main assumptions of the theory is an axisymmetric magnetosphere. And what we see is something, an asymmetric structure that is very different. So with a careful inspection of the whole theoretical framework, we believe that the driving mechanism of Jupiter's mean aurora is actually powered by a two-layered current system. So at a relatively lower altitude, the mean aurora is powered by the classic breakdown in co-rotation currents, and at a relatively higher altitude where we observe, the mean aurora of Jupiter is driven by the Peterson currents that is associated with this asymmetric effective ion drifts. I'm not going to cover the whole thing here. If you're interested in the whole theory, you are welcome to read the paper. So I think I'm approaching the time limit. I'll just stop here with a summary and perspective for some future studies. So I've shown you today that with H3 plus velocities, we've seen that within Jupiter's ionosphere, the dynamics seems highly comparable even after a period of 5 years. And it seems like this is a persistent phenomenon, but we're not sure. We're calling for more direct observations to verify this. As for the neutral dynamics, this is the first time we're able to resolve the thermospheric dynamics from Jupiter. So for future model studies, the neutral velocities should be considered, especially like they're not really co-rotating with the planet. And we believe that this study can be extended into other giant planets, especially now that H3 plus has been observed in Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. with the data taken from the upgraded Keck-NIRSPEC and the most advanced JWST, hopefully all the questions I've just raised can be properly answered. So with that, I will stop here. Thank you for listening.